How's it going on, guys? Turtywurty here, and welcome back to another tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be covering how we can go ahead and make a block for Forge 1.16.4 for Minecraft, of course. So blocks are actually quite similar to items, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly. So all you really need to go ahead and do is go into our block init, which is a class I created in the organization video, and in here we once again want a deferred register. So that is a public static final deferred register, and for this we will go ahead and put block, and just make sure you import block. Actually, we cannot import block yet, but we can call this just blocks, and that will be equal to deferred register dot create, and this will first take in the registry. So for that we obviously use forge registries dot blocks, and then for the second part, that is the mod ID. So we just use tutorial mod, which is our main class, .mod ID, and access that static field. Once you've done that, you just need to import block. Make sure you import the right block, so that is obviously net.minecraft.block.block. And there we go, that is the deferred register. So far the exact same as the items. Now we just need a registry object, so that is a public static final registry object, and this will once again be a block, if I could type, of course. I'm just going to call this example. Oh, what happened there? Example underscore block, and that will just be equal to blocks dot register. This will first be the name, so that will just be example underscore block, and then it is a supplier of the block. So we can do a new block once it loads. There we go. So inside of this block constructor right here, this just takes in an Abstractblock Properties. So to use that, we can just use Abstractblock Properties create, and this has a few different overloads. So we have the first one, which just takes in a material. We have a one that takes in a material and a dye color, and we have one that takes in a function for a block state and a material color. So you can basically have the material color dependent on the block state, which is quite useful for some things. And then you just have the material and the material color. I'm going to actually choose the material and the material color, but in general people use this one, just the material. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. It just depends sort of what you want your block to function as, I suppose. So for this first parameter, this will just be material dot, and you'll see a whole list of materials, loads of them. I'm just going to choose iron, which is right there. And then for the material color, that is just material color dot, and then you get this whole list here. So I'm just going to choose I'll choose blue. Okay, and then after that we can do any other properties we want, and they just stack along as they all return back the properties. So there's a few that I'm going to cover. I'm going to go ahead and cover hardness and resistance. So there's actually two overloads for this. there is the one that takes in 1 float, and that will apply for both the hardness and the resistance. And there is one that takes in 2 floats, so that will be the hardness for one and the resistance for the next. So I'm going to go ahead and use the one that has 2 floats. So for the hardness, I believe diamond is about 15 for the hardness, and I believe for the resistance it's about 30. That is just off the top of my head. In the description I will have 2 links, which will be for the hardness and resistance values of vanilla blocks. Alternatively, you can just go ahead and look at the vanilla blocks class, where you will see all of these different values for each block. So once you have chose your hardness and resistance values, I'm just going to move this down so we can have it a little more organized. We're going to go through a few more properties here. So the next one I want is harvest tool, I believe. So there is, pretty sure, 2 different things here. There should be harvest level and harvest tool. Here you go, harvest level and harvest tool. So first I'm going to set the harvest tool, and this will basically be the tool that is used to harvest it. So I'm just going to choose pickaxe, but there's obviously hoe, shovel and axe. I'm just going to choose pickaxe. And then for the harvest level, once again I will actually have some values based on the harvest level in the description. There is a site for that as well. Now if I choose -1, that means that all levels can use it. If I choose 0, that is wood. If I choose 1, that is stone and gold. If I choose 2, that is iron. 3 is diamond, and 4 is netherite. And anything past that will be only for modded pickaxes. So only for pickaxes which have been modded to have a higher harvest level. So say, for example, 5 might be like cobalt, maybe, or it might be obsidian if someone adds an obsidian pickaxe. I think you get what I mean though. I'm going to choose 2. Now I think you can also do something with the hand. Maybe not. I do seem to remember there was some hand property, but maybe I am wrong. Now I would like to mention, if you want all these values to be the exact same as a vanilla block, what you can do is just, instead of create up here, you can do from, and in there you can just do blocks dots and choose whatever your block you want. Or if you want it from one of your own blocks, you can do block init dot and then block name dot get, and that will get the values from a block in your own block init. So that is quite useful, but I'm not going to do that. I think there is one more thing we probably want to go ahead and do, and that is probably the sound. Obviously, as I say, there is loads more properties, and I will be covering them in my advanced blocks video, which will be coming shortly after this one. Now for this sound, we just use sound type dot, and as you can see there are loads of these, just as the other ones. So I'm going to just use, I think there's metal somewhere. Pretty sure there is metal. I just can't see it though. There it is, metal. And yeah, obviously if you want another property, you just do another dot and then jump factor, for example. A lot of the properties are quite self-explanatory for what they actually do. I don't want them to be formatted like that, so I don't know why it's doing that. And yeah, it is sometimes better to just have it on one line. For example, if you're having a lot of blocks, doing it like this will take up a lot of lines and leave a lot of white space. So it's generally better to just have it on one line, but I prefer to separate it onto multiple lines so I don't have to scroll across and see what it is. You can always just go ahead and click this plus sign here, and that will just put the ... there, when I believe you can just hover over that and it will show you, but I like to keep that expanded. So yeah, that's pretty much it for a block. Now if you want your block to have any special properties, like when you right click it, it does something, or whatever, that will be slightly more advanced. I will be covering that in my advanced blocks video, so I'm going to be doing a lot in that advanced blocks video. So that is actually it for the initialization, other than actually registering the deferred register. So if you were here for the last episode, we did the same with items, so we just need to do the same again. So blockinit.blocks.register, and that just takes in our bus variable, which we made right here. Now this will register a block. We will have a block in the game. However, we will not have an item for that block, since items and blocks are different. So we need a block item, which allows us to actually place the block. So if we go back into our item init, we can go ahead and create another field down here. So I'm actually just going to put a comment and do this block items. So here we can do another public static final registry object, and this will be, instead of an item in here, we want a block item. You can put item, but I prefer to keep it as block item. Now for this field, you in general want to name it the exact same name as what you put in block init. So if I go into block init, you can see I put example block. So what we really want to call this field is just example block, and that will just be items.register, and just the name should be also the exact same as in block init. So as you can see, we put example block, and then you once again need the supplier, but instead of a new item here, we want a new block item. And this will first take in the block that this block item will use. So for that, we can just do block init dot example block. Now that will throw an error, because as you can see in our block init, this is a registry object. It is not an actual block. So to obtain the block from a registry object, it's extremely simple. We just go ahead and add a .get on the end, and that will return us the block class, and then we just have the properties. So for that, I can just do a new item .properties .group. I'm just going to group it, but you can do any other special properties you wish. If you want it to be a food or whatever, you can do that. I'm going to be covering that in a separate video. So I'm going to use item group dot building blocks, and just add a semicolon on the end, and there we go. That will register a block item. Now there is a way to loop through all of your block items, and all of your blocks, and register a block item for them. I'm not going to show you how to do that. However, I will have a paste bin in the description of this video, which will have the code you need to do that. So basically all you need is just a registry event, but I will have a whole class for that in the paste bin, and you can just use that class if you wish. But if you only have a few blocks in your mod, I wouldn't really say it's worth automatically registering them. But if you want to, you can. I'm just not going to show you how to do it. In the next tutorial, you will see that I do have that in here, It's a lot helpful for the future because I'm going to be having a lot of blocks. Now we need to go into our source main resources, and first we'll go into our lang, and we just want to add it to our lang. So for this it will be block.tutorial instead of item, because this is a block, and then it is just example_block, and I'm going to call this example block, or you can just call it a block of example, for example. I'm actually going to keep it as block of example. I think that works quite nice. And I believe you can also do tile.tutorial.example block, and I'm pretty sure that will fix a little issue with the naming when you /kill that item, because I'm pretty sure if you /kill it, it will say that tile.tutorial was killed instead of block.tutorial, but I'm not certain on that. Yeah, and then we need to do the models, but blocks are slightly different. So there is never a actual block in your world. This might be a quite confusing concept to understand if you've never seen it before, but there is no such thing as a block in your world. There is instead a block state, and that block state holds the block class, but it also holds a bunch of information about that block. So it will hold any different properties with the block. So for example, cauldrons have different levels, and those are held in block states. What else? Crops have different stages. Those are held in the block state. So we need a block state for our block, and all we need is just a default property, because we don't have any special properties yet, and that will be a thing I do in a moment. So we want to create a new folder or a new package inside of assets.tutorial called block states. And then for the name of this, we need to have it the exact same name as what we've registered the block. So that will just be example_block, and obviously this is a JSON. And just press finish, and there you go, we now have our JSON. Now in the description of this video I have got two JSONs for this, one for the block state and one for the block model. So we just want to put the block state one in here, and we just need to do a little bit of substitution. So we're going to substitute mod ID with our mod ID. So mine is obviously tutorial, and the block model is the name of what our block model will be called. So I'm just going to keep it the same as block state name. I prefer to keep it the same so that it doesn't get confused, and that will just be example_block. So you in general want to keep it the same name as the JSON. However, obviously if you have different states, then you can't do that. So just going to go through this really quickly. So we have the variants. This basically it can hold multiple variants, and here we just have the default variant. Since we have no special properties for our block, we just have a blank property here, and this holds the model. So this basically tells it that this is the model location right here. It starts at assets and then tutorial, and after tutorial, as this colon shows, it skips to models, since it knows it will be in models, and then it goes to the block folder, which we have specified here, and then it goes to a file which will be named example_block, and then it knows it's a JSON, so it adds a JSON on the end. That's basically how it figures out what is happening. So we can close that now and actually go ahead and create that file. So once again, we just want to name it whatever we just put for that block state. And once again, as I said, I have this in the description. Now, if you want your block to have different textures on different sides, you can use block/cube and specify the different sides here. So, for example, up, and then blah 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 blah. However, I'm not going to be sort of covering that in here. You can look at vanilla blocks such as the furnace and crafting table to understand better exactly how that works. So once again, this is just a little bit of substitution. We substitute our mod ID out for our mod ID, so tutorial, and we substitute texture name for what the name of our texture will be. So once again, I'm going to keep it the same and call it example block. And I'm just going to run through this really quickly. So here we tell it what to parent off of. So this basically tells it what textures it will be looking for, and then and what the base model will look like, and then we define those textures. And here we are just using all, since that is what cube/all asks for. So we are defining that all texture as tutorial, so assets.tutorial, and then as once again the colon says, it jumps down to textures, and inside textures we have the blocks, and inside there we will have an example underscore block JSON, no, PNG, not JSON. So yeah, it obviously knows it's a PNG. We don't have to tell it it's a PNG, since you can only have PNGs. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Obviously, we do need to go ahead and put our texture in there. I don't currently have a texture, so I'm just going to create that, and I will be back once I've done that. Okay, so there we go. I just went ahead and created my texture. Now I'm just going to refresh the workspace so that I have that in there. Okay, so now we can go ahead and actually there's one more thing we do need to do. We need to do the item model. So I'm actually going to create this myself. I don't think we need to go ahead and copy this. So we just need to name this the exact same thing as our block model. And we're going to type this one out ourselves, as it is very simple. So all we do is we do the parent, and in here we can just do tutorial mod block / and then our block name, so example underscore block. And what this does is it just gets the item model from our block model. So it parents the item model off of our block model, which we specified right here. And yeah, that's it for that. So now I'm pretty sure we can go ahead and run the game, and I'll see you guys there. Okay, so guys, as you can see, I am now in the game. I did have a little error because I was being a little bit stupid and I accidentally put tutorial mod for my mod ID, but obviously my mod ID is tutorial, so I did just have to fix that. Me being silly, really. But if we go into the building blocks tab, we can go down to the bottom and we should be able to see our block with the correct name, and hopefully the correct model in hand, and hopefully the correct model when placed. So as you can see, it works perfectly fine. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It has the correct sound type that we set it, so that is iron, and hopefully if I just go into survival, so we set the material to iron. So I hope you guys did enjoy this tutorial. If you did, please do be sure to smash your face into that like button, and go ahead and subscribe as well. It's free, I mean, why not? And hit that bell if you want to see when I next upload and get notified for it. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.